Halloween is almost upon us now, so it's a perfect time to look at Dead Space 2. There have been a few, recent developments with this game, so I'll cover those too a bit. Dead Space 2 was a change of direction for the series, and it started with the marketing. If you saw my Dead Space 1 video, you'll know that I was kind of entranced by the trailer. It was slow and quiet, but then there'd be distorted violence. It has a clear intention of building up intrigue, so let's compare that to the Dead Space 2 trailer.
Oh my god! Oh gosh. I think it'll make a person become insane.
This game is an atrocity.
It's revolting. It's violent. It's everything you love in a game. And your mom's gonna hate it.
My mom? What?
Why would they even make something like this?
Dead Space 2, rated M for mature.
So they're marketing it to kids? Okay, I think you get the idea. In contrast to the first game, which was sold as a horror title, 2 is being sold as an action game. I've seen the progression of Dead Space games compared to Alien, and I think that's somewhat right. I'll touch more on that later, because I'm going to start off with the premise. After escaping the quadriplegic fiesta that was the Ishimura, Isaac's been picked up by the government. He's feeling guilty about the death of his girlfriend Nicole. As the intro shows, he was the one who encouraged her to go on the ship in the first place. You're then awoken by a brand new character. Well, he's brand new to most people. He's the main character of Dead Space Ignition, which was an interactive comic made before Dead Space 2 came out. So we have protagonists from 2 games here. That's kind of interesting. I wonder how they'll get along with each other. Oh my god, is he okay? There's a new necromorph outbreak, and you have to escape it while still being strapped up in a straitjacket. You're on a space station known as the Sprawl. It's been built into the remains of Saturn's moon Titan. And unlike the first game, which was the aftermath of an outbreak, you're seeing it happen live this time. Your goals are pretty simple. Get off the station, and find out what happened. If you haven't played the first game, the intro does a lot to recap you. There's also a handy video in the main menu that'll bring you up to speed. That's a good way to start a sequel. They could have had your rescuer not know what's going on and tag along a little. Isaac, what's a necromorph? Isaac, what's a marker? Where'd you come from, Isaac? They knew not to do that. While it's obviously better to have played the first game, it's totally viable to go into this as a new player. That might sound minor, but a lot of sequels can suffer with extremes. Like on one end it'll treat you like you just played the last game minutes ago and it's all fresh in your head, but on the other end they think you're brand new and don't know anything. It can be a bit annoying at times, but overall it's a great balance.
Isaac, it's Dana. You have to dismember the creatures to stop them.
I know. I've had a lot of practice.
So new or returning, you'll probably be comfortable. With that out of the way, there have been a lot of changes since Dead Space 1, so let's start with the visuals. On a technical level, just about everything is a step up. The lighting, effects, and textures have never looked better. It's mostly free of the technical issues Dead Space 1 had, but the in-game VSync can mess with your aiming a little bit, so you might as well just force it outside the game. It's clear a lot of effort went into improving the visuals, and there are only so many ways I can say that it just looks better, so not having a lot to say is a good thing here. On the other hand, the art style has gone through some significant changes. This is a high-tech space station. We're not on some dying industrial ship anymore, so most of the game has a much sleeker look to it. The engineering suit is probably the best example of this. In the first game, it's like this bulky space welder outfit. It looked clunky and heavy, but it made sense for the job. That's different now. The Iron Man movies were making a ton of money during this game's development, so they may have taken some inspiration. It just feels like something changed between the games. I know some people who hate this design, but it makes sense for what they were doing. High-tech space station, high-tech suits. It's also worth remembering that Isaac moved a lot clunkier in Dead Space 1. Like when he's leaning around, he just kind of drifts from side to side. But in 2, he can lean all over the place like he's a boxer. I think his suit got streamlined down so the new maneuverability and better controls would make sense. Even when you find a dinosaur of a suit later on, it's all like material, not plated. There's one major aspect that makes the suit in 1 look better. When I said just about everything was better technically, that meant there was an exception. The way light and reflections work on the suit in 1 seems to be better than 2. I have a suspicion that it was toned down for the environments. Dead Space 1 had a lot of hallways, and the larger environments were usually more barren. Dead Space 2 typically has a lot more going on. It's easy to forget that this is also a 360 and PS3 title. They had limited resources to work with. A Electronic Arts also didn't want one version looking too much better than the others. So when it comes to the art style argument in the series, I think that's a part of it. It is a subtle difference, but I think it contributes to people not liking Isaac's sleek art style more than they would. It might seem silly to focus on, but there's a constant debate over this. At the very least, I'm glad they were doing something different. If you're really itching to be a lumbering factory worker, they give you that option later on. The new stuff is unique from each other, and I think that's a plus. Isaac was an engineer in the first game. That's not his day job anymore. He's an exterminator now. Seeking out bulky work suits doesn't make sense to him in a practical sense, and it holds back his character development. If he has access to space police or military equipment, why wouldn't he use that? It's a way of showing escalation in the conflict. I've got to move on. I've spent 2 minutes talking about how lights look on spacesuits. The environments are just a flat-out win. I liked how the Ishimura looked utilitarian and practical, but there are so many areas in Dead Space 2 that just blow it out of the park. It's not all sleek future either. There are lots of industrial areas. The station has a purpose. My favorite area by far is the Church of Unitology. It's brilliant. It has a very clean, modern entrance. This is clearly to lure new converts in. The deeper you go, the more red flags there are. It was easy to forget that this was all in a space station. It's one of my favorite areas in a game, period. It's a medieval cathedral, and a tomb, and a cult indoctrination center, and it's all in space. It's a visual feast, and like everything else in Dead Space 1 and 2, it's been thought out. Here's where they perform funeral rites. There's the mechanism they use to collect and preserve all the bodies. Zero gravity means less effort to move them around, so it operates off that. Just don't look at the power bill. Here's where bodies get stored. It's an adventure. Otherworldly, yet familiar. There's tons to see. The game is always mixing it up. No backtracking like the first game. You're always heading somewhere new, and that's a great feeling of progression. Oh cool, a sail on a Dagoth mask. Looking at the action side of the gameplay, the first thing I'll notice compared to Dead Space 1 is that the aiming has changed. It uses a targeting reticle instead of laser pointers. I don't like it. Luckily you can switch back to classic aiming and there you go, you got your lasers back. There are a few on-rails sections where you have to aim and this seems to offset it a little bit, but it wasn't big enough to be a problem. Speaking of those, there are a lot more set-piece sections compared to Dead Space 1. The developers wanted to have more of these in Dead Space 1, but they just didn't have the budget for it. Keep in mind, their goal was to have an ultra-polished version of Resident Evil 4. Some of them do have some quick-time events that feel pretty unnecessary, but they're fun, and they keep it fresh. All of the weapons from the first game are back with some visual makeovers. A few weapons got their alternate fire modes reworked to be more useful. For example, my beloved pulse rifle now has a grenade launcher instead of whatever that was. So all the old weapons are back and they feel more useful than ever. 2 also introduces 4 new weapons: a rivet gun, a mine-laying detonator weapon, an electric javelin gun, and a sniper rifle. The new weapons feel very specialized. You can still beat this game using the plasma cutter. Using only one of these would be much harder. That being said, with the exception of the rivet gun, I found them all fun and complementary to the other weapons. The combat is smooth, responsive, and satisfying. The process of getting geared up has also undergone some changes. You still need to hunt around for schematics and power nodes. This time around though, the power node treasure rooms are much more important. A few have new suits and weapons, so they feel even more mandatory to explore than before. You still have to find a workbench when you want to upgrade your stuff. Getting more health is a much bigger investment. You need to find or buy a dozen to get it to max. On the other hand, investing into weapons is a lot more rewarding. Along with more upgrades, some have special attack bonuses. Kinesis damage is a new upgrade and a welcome one at that. The act of finding the bench is easier now. The objective marker can now cycle through different objects of interest. I think the most significant change to the upgrade and loot system comes from combat. When an enemy dies, they won't drop stuff until their body has been broken apart. Unless you test Kinesis, this makes it easier for them to play dead. The new stomp is great. My one issue is that there are some big fights. At some point, bodies will start to despawn, and sometimes they drop ammo, and sometimes they don't. The safest way to prevent this is to immediately start smashing their body up as soon as you kill them. I'm okay with this, but it could be tedious for some people. Speaking of tedious, the store has an issue, and it's not the layout, because that's much better. Let's take a look at the first store in the game.
Welcome to Microstore. CEC engineer Isaac Clarke. Updating inventory to see.
Did I win the lottery? A while back there was a lot of console-exclusive suit and weapon DLC, but then someone data mined it. Then EA flipped out and said, okay, everyone on PC gets it for free, and they just unlocked all of it. This is on a fresh save, it ruins all the progression. So I had to buy all the free stuff off the store and then shove it in the inventory. If you don't do that, it all clutters up the store for the entire game. But it's slow. You can only move 3 weapons at a time. Moving all the suits means sitting through a fashion show for each one, and I'm not going to do that. If the suit costs money, it's one you're supposed to have. Just do that. Let's talk about the enemies. Old enemies look better and have some new abilities. There's nearly a dozen new monster types to fight, and I mean brand new, not reskins. There's a lot of room to experiment, and it's fun finding out what works best on which enemy. Some are mainly found in or exclusive to Zero Gravity. It's been completely reworked so you have freedom of movement instead of leapfrogging around. These are all welcome changes. To spice things up even more, they offer a new difficulty level right from the beginning. It can be a real challenge at times. There are a few parts that I'll probably never forget. I bet this elevator screwed up a lot of speedruns. Lower levels have more ammo, so if you just want a monster shooting gallery, that's viable too. There's something for everybody. And as far as over-the-shoulder shooters go, this might be one of the best, if not the best. So the action's great. What about the horror elements?
Offline. Station reverted. Manual operation only.
It shares some of the issues with the first game, like making the payoff to a tense moment be way too over the top. Let's look at the first scene in the game.
Did you have contact with this marker? It made you see things, didn't it? Things you didn't want to see.
It spoke to me.
What did it say, Isaac? What did it say to you, Isaac? Isaac, can you hear me, Isaac?
When I played this on release, I got shivers watching her crawl up on that desk. It's a really creepy image. Then her face started glowing and I was more confused than anything. They played it too hard. I might catch some flack for this, but I think Dead Space 2 is a much scarier game. It had its moments, but it relied on the same stuff too often. The atmosphere was creepier at all times, but the delivery was weaker. I generally felt a little tenser at the whole game. This is hard to put into words, so I made this MS Paint graph. This is based off my first Dead Space 1 playthrough. It's generally tenser throughout the whole game, but the scenery doesn't change much. It does deliver from time to time. Here's my Dead Space 2 chart. There are a lot of action set pieces and fights, so it's a lot less tense overall. But when it wants to ramp it up, it ramps it up. I know this is all subjective, but I'll tell you why I think this way. When you got to the tram in Dead Space 1, that was it. Chapter complete, next level. The tram was a safe place. You don't get loading screens like that in 2. I mean, elevators were hidden loading screens, but oh. Those aren't safe either now. You can get jumped on anywhere, at any time. This is a subtle effect, but you'll start noticing it more when the game gets quiet. Enemies don't only burst at events. It might even be different on a second play. The use of more open space is also something that unnerves me. I did a lot of camping back in grade school and I had some unpleasant encounters with animals at night, so this gets me a little paranoid. It's been a few years since I played this, so when I replayed one chapter, I was sweating in my chair. There's so little light at times that your helmet lights it up. You're hearing weird noises and voices and things are falling over. I was sucked right into all of it. I was more nervous in this one chapter than all of Dead Space 1 in total. It's a fantastic section. You have Event Horizon like nightmare visions throughout the game and Nicole will torment you as well, but these didn't really get to me. A big problem is that it's hard to actually understand what she's saying at times. The last Isaac saw of her was a video message, so they thought it would make sense to put a static filter over her voice. That's a good idea, but they went too heavy on it. My voice level was the highest of all the sound effects. She doesn't just talk during the quiet moments either. I can't reminisce right now. Back to the good, there's one enemy type that genuinely unnerves me. Oh my god. That is so awful. God, the way they peek out at you. They're always moving as a team to disorient you too. It's a distraction, I don't want to look at him. Oh man, even looking at that in post bothered me. What a cool enemy. Looking around, you'll know when you're in their part of town. They're unnerving, fast, and they'll kill you quick, and they make for a great challenge. Ugh. The last thing to talk about is the story, and without getting into spoilers, it's pretty good. Making Isaac a voice protagonist was the right direction to go in. What makes him great as a character is that he's scared, but he's doing everything anyways. That's true bravery, kids.
We can both get out of here. Just cut me out of this straitjacket.
No one's getting out of here alive.
Don't do it.
You're a strange man, Isaac.
Will you help me?
We're about to suffocate, so I think I'm better.
Okay, good. Listen, we need power. Without it, we have no air and no train. Sprawl's gotta have backup batteries somewhere.
In both dialogue and gameplay, Isaac is more of a systems engineer than he was in the first. He jury-rigs stuff to help him with his goals. He comes up with the plans that require technical knowledge. Morons are calling him for help all the time. Cute girls laugh when he tells them about his job.
You?
Engineer.
Nerd.
Figures.
Very good character traits. Very good. Unfortunately, the story feels a bit less complete than Dead Space 1. 1 answered a lot of the questions the story brought up, but left a few things open-ended. So you felt satisfied, but still had some mysteries to ponder over. Dead Space 2 raises a lot more questions, but answers very few of them. If you don't want spoilers, go to here. You're still here? Man, that guy who doesn't want spoilers is in for such a rude awakening in Dead Space 3. I forgot Awakening was the name of that DLC when I said that. Let's move on. It turns out survivors of marker incidents get afflicted with some kind of dementia. Another survivor, Nolan Strauss, has been hit with it a little harder. Most of what he says sounds like nonsense, but there's a bit of method to his madness.
Strauss, what are you doing? You have to face her for me. Tell her I didn't
That's a
even
risky
do
move,
this.
Isaac. The director of the station really wants you dead. He's kind of a bland villain, and you need to hunt around for text or audio logs to really understand his motivations and what's his deal. It could be worse. It turns out marker madness doesn't affect people the same. It fills their head with marks and symbols no matter what, but if you're a smart boy, you can interpret the symbols as blueprints for a marker. That's almost a direct quote.
Dementia and codes and blueprints are all caused by the same signal from the marker. It's the people that are different. Smart people see codes and blueprints, but to everyone else, it's just noise.
Are you smart enough to build a marker? So tapping into Isaac's brain, they built a theater bucket popcorn-sized marker. It's been established the government knows how dangerous these things are, so why would they do that? They put that answer into a readable log you can miss. The marker puts out a ton of energy. This is a world where people are tearing apart planets to survive, so that makes sense. I don't think it's ready for consumer versions yet. Along the way, Isaac linked up with a survivor named Ellie. She babysits Strauss while Isaac is away, until he puts her eye out because he's convinced it'll help stop the marker. He's always muttering something about steps. Ghost Nicole stops tormenting you and then says something about steps as well. Where are they going with this? The Nicole plotline is weak because we don't really know anything about Nicole. She was Isaac's girlfriend, so it makes sense for him to be invested. But as a player, it's hard to get into. It's hard to feel something for a character in a relationship you know nothing about. The first marker was reverse engineered to contain necromorphs. I guess they did such a good job that even the hallucinations are going along with that program. She guides Isaac into returning the marker.
One shred, one light, one bright shining star you cling to in this universe.
They didn't do those touch-ups on this marker. She leads you into unleashing the necromorphs in the government center, and as it turns out, the steps do go somewhere.
What are they doing?
They're all coming to the marker.
It's all those bodies you let in here. It's triggering a convergence event. But we never expected this many bodies. What the hell is it doing?
What it was made to do. Isaac, you have to make us whole.
What the hell is going on?
Crawl inside. Step 2. This screw's so tight. All around. Cross my heart and hope to die. Stick a needle in my eye.
Oh god, I gotta be careful. I know the machine unlocked or extracted some kind of marker information block from his brain, but to this day I don't know exactly what happened. I suspect now that his brain had the blueprints for something, but wouldn't the marker get that anyway by absorbing him? Either way, the marker needs it to happen, but this also helps Isaac stop it. Nicole then gives Isaac a Jimmy Neutron brain blast and he fights her inside his head. This might sound silly, but the best line in the series is in here.
God damn it, I trusted you! Fuck you! And fuck your marker!
It's not a very good boss fight. Nicole just kind of lumbers around while a reskinned enemy chases after you. The hive mind was also a pretty simple shoot the big glowing things, but at least it was a spectacle. Everything built up to this giant monster and you knew what was going on. The fight in Dead Space 2 isn't literal and it's hard to tell exactly what's happening, but when you do beat it, the ending is worth it. It's a roller coaster that goes all over the place. There's a fun little callback to the first game and then it's over. Isaac developed as a character by letting go of Nicole. Good character stuff. At the end, I still had no idea what the marker was doing. This was clearly made with a sequel in mind. Unitologists think that convergence will unite mankind. Wonder what that means. It's a story carried by its moments, but the beats from Alien are really apparent. People on a planet find a weird alien thing. It does something dangerous. They bring it onto their ship, it starts killing people off. A working person needs to save the day. One of the crew members is a traitor sent to recover the thing. Traitor dies, hero defeats thing. Now let's do Dead Space 2 and Aliens. This time the story is more action-focused. The hero is recovered by authorities and probed about the incident. They're plagued by nightmares and visions from it. The scale of destruction is increased. The hero is given more responsibilities and takes more action to grow as a character. Ripley was absent for the death of her daughter, Isaac was absent for the death of Nicole. Ripley protects a surrogate daughter, Isaac protects a surrogate girlfriend. Both end with the complete destruction of the threat. This time the hero saved others and completed their arc. Both have a disappointing sequel. I could compare all day, but ultimately this formula works. But what happens after you beat the game? You unlock new suits for New Game Plus, and you unlock Hardcore mode. It's harder than Zealot and you can only save 3 times. So what happens when you beat Hardcore mode? You unlock the Foam Finger. Real space, real terror, real foam. Something like this is rare to see these days. Usually it's sold for $2.99, because everything's gone wrong. There used to be a multiplayer mode that was like Left 4 Dead Versus, but it's pretty dead now. Is that kid arguing with his dad? Well, it's somewhat alive and everyone has their mic open. That's a very trusting community. It's a very dedicated role-playing community too, because judged on their connections, I think their computers are actually set up somewhere near Saturn. I'd stick with the single player. Dead Space 2 was wildly successful. It doubled the sales of Dead Space 1, selling around 4 million copies near launch. Unfortunately, that wasn't successful enough. As you may know, Visceral Games is now shut down. Some developers have been shedding light on the situation. Budget including marketing was roughly around 120 million. Developers have tiptoed around saying if it was profitable or not. If you think about the cost of distribution, tax, cuts going to online platforms, and other factors like that, it might not have made a profit. The cost of authentic artisan moms is no laughing matter. This failure to meet expectations would lead to some big changes in Dead Space 3. I'll be talking about that very soon, but not the next video. I'm upgrading some computer parts to make video editing less of a hassle, so I'm gonna have a bit of an intermission video between things. I'm pushing Halloween into November, and no one can stop me. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll be discussing the dangers of Polish forests. Thanks for watching, and happy Halloween. What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?